시청자 여러분 안녕하십니까. 머니투데이 미디어 그룹은 백투제로 대담한 실행을 주제로 혁신의 실행력을 강조하는 국제 컨퍼런스 키플랫폼 2015를 개최했습니다. 혁신은 말로 되는 것이 아니라 바로 빠른 실행으로 옮겨질 때 뿌리를 내리는 것이라는 점이 다양한 외국 사례를 통해서 소개된 자리였습니다. 2015 키플랫폼 특별 대담, 오늘 이 시간에는 이번 키플랫폼의 메인 앵커를 맡으신 마이클 트램 헤이그룹 유럽 대표와 강연자로 참여하신 강로 테크크런치 차이나 대표를 초대했습니다. 두 분으로부터 혁신의 실행력이 왜 중요한지, 그리고 실행력을 올리기 위한 핵심 요소는 무엇인지 들어보겠습니다.
가난했지만 꿈이 있기에 도전할 수 있었던 우리들의 아버지, 그들이 걸어왔던 길, 대한민국.
모든 이 정치, 경제, 이 군사, 여세, 과학, 연구가 전부 사람으로서 되는 일이 물리로서 되는 건 아니라고 난 생각하고 있습니다.
우리는 우리가 생활해 나가는데 모든 분야에 있어서 다 어려운 게 있지 쉬운 것만 있는 것은 아닙니다. 그 어려운 것은 우리가 다 극복할 수 있다.
발빠른 추격으로 발전을 거듭해온 대한민국은 지금 도약과 후퇴 두 갈래의 길 앞에 서 있습니다. 아무도 가지 않는 길. 하지만 피해갈 수 없기에 늘 그렇듯 우리는 답을 찾아야 합니다. 2013 시나리오 플래닝 기법을 통한 세상에 없던 단 하나의 미래 혁신 보고서. 전 세계 100개 혁신 기업의 경영진을 인터뷰에 찾아낸 혁신의 DNA 2014 키플랫폼. 그리고 2015년 미국과 독일, 스웨덴, 일본 전 세계 기업들을 찾아 파헤친 B.A.T. 담대한 실행. 다시 처음으로 담대한 도전 정신을 가슴에 품고 전진해야 할 당신의 위대한 여정에 정직한 안내자가 되어줄 혁신의 비밀이 2015 키플랫폼에서 펼쳐집니다.
Thank you for joining us, Michael Tram and 강로.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Michael Tram, you took the key anchor of Key Platform 2015, and which Money2Day Media Group organized, and you are also the MC of last year's Key Platform. So, Mr. Tram, as you had a huge part in this event, would you explain the main theme of Key Platform 2015?
Yeah, Mr. Choi, with pleasure. Bold execution and back to zero. What does it mean? When we discussed about a year ago in the same setting here at the last platform the theme of innovation, we felt and we saw and we recognized that Korea and the companies in Korea are really strong in innovation, in the way they strategize, in the way they think, in the way they plan. What we then felt and what we also observed is that they could be stronger in getting it done. So being innovative does not mean just to have a strategy how to become innovative and having plans in the drawers to be innovative. It's all about getting it done, execution, implementation. And then Chairman Hong, the team, and we all discussed that and felt it might be a good idea to focus this year on this bold execution. And to make it more placative, illustrative, it was then said, yeah, back to zero. And what does it mean, this back to zero? Well, like in Korean, there's also in German a saying that is, no pain, no gain. That means if you are already highly developed and you think everything is working fine, then you may be not bringing the pain that is necessary to get the gain. So back to zero means draw away all the burdens, come to the beginning again, be free in thinking out of the box so that you can from there develop further. That is the main idea.
Okay, thank you. I know you are the managing director of Heigroup for Europe. So please introduce your company briefly.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Choi. Heigroup is a global management consulting firm. We work with leaders to transform strategy into reality. We help to execute. We develop talent. We organize people to be more effective and motivate them to perform at their best. Our focus is on making change happen and helping people and organizations to realize their potential. We are about 4,000 people globally in 49 countries with 89 offices, and of course we have an office here also in Seoul, a very strong team.
Okay. Mr. Gangno, you are the founder of the Techno.com in China, and the Techno.com is the partner of the TechCrunch, which is the biggest IT media in North America.
Yes.
So you are also the president of TechCrunch in China, right?
Yeah.
So please introduce the Techno.com and TechCrunch to our viewers.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Choi. It's my great pleasure to be here. I started a Techno, which actually is still a startup. I started the Techno back to actually a long time, early 2007, but it was my personal hobby because my background is I have my PhD about in computer science, so I love technologies. So I started writing about technologies back 2007, but until 2011 I started this company Techno, which turned my hobby into a kind of media business. So right now Techno is the number one tech media in China. We are also unique in China because we write about the technology and also what's happening in Chinese startup ecosystem in both Chinese and also English. So how we position us, so we are trying to be kind of the bridge to bridge the Chinese tech ecosystem with the global tech ecosystems. As you said, we also we are lucky, and also it's our great pleasure to have a partnership with TechCrunch. So basically we run TechCrunch China. So we manage TechCrunch, the Chinese, the media side. We also manage TechCrunch, the offline business in China, like the TechCrunch events or other stuff.
So you gave a speech with the title of the game, Changing Innovation Through East Asia Collaboration, right?
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned about the key trend and in China tech and startups. So can you give us again what was your speech was briefly?
I think I gave a speech. I think it's all about the latest the trends in the China's tech space from our because we are watching the space, the tech space every day. So what we see in China actually is lots of things happening in China in the past 2 or 3 years. We see the mobile internet, for instance, is growing so fast. And right now, we probably have like 80% of the Chinese internet users. They are access the internet through the mobile devices. And also we have probably over 16% of internet users actually they also use the smart TVs. And so we see like e-commerce is really booming. Everybody knows the story about Alibaba, the huge IPO last year. And so we see a new movement from the what we call B.A.T company in China, the Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, the three big guys. We see some new movement. For example, like Tencent is very good on the social because they have very popular social tools like QQ. But now because they have the very popular WeChat, is like mobile messaging, but now it's kind of platform. Everybody, you can not just contact your friends over WeChat, you can also pay your back bill, buy stuff over WeChat. So it's kind of new movement. And also, even like Alibaba, they spend lots of money to buy companies, like buy map companies, buy some other companies. But we also see some new kind of shining star from China. For example, Xiaomi is, only 4 years. Xiaomi now, they have around like 45 billion valuations, which is just happening in the past 4 years. And so now they are the #1 phone seller in China, and also now moving global. So, and we see more and more startups. They are not only focused on China. They are, I think, the kind of aggressive enough to go to a global market. And we see, for example, now like smart hardware is a kind of new trend in the global market. And China, because we have Shenzhen, they have very mature manufacturing chain. So we see like everybody come to Shenzhen for the hardwares. So lots of things. Yeah.
So do you think that some areas in China will be growing like a Silicon Valley in the US, or that they are pursuing the different strategy?
Yeah, actually, there's lots of debate back in China. I think everybody everybody expect, we hope we can have something like Silicon Valley in China. I think, for example, like Beijing is like a #1 startup city, tech city in China. So, and somebody think Beijing is the kind of Chinese version of Silicon Valley. But now there are some change. For example, Hangzhou is like where Alibaba headquartered. Because Alibaba have the huge IPO, so like after one night, there are like thousands of millionaires, from Hangzhou. So now they have money, they become kind of angel or venture capital investors. So they started investing startups. So Hangzhou is become very, very active right now.
Hangzhou, yeah.
Yeah, and also Shenzhen is for hardware. So it's hard to say which city is the Silicon Valley in China, but if you look at from another angle, is Silicon Valley, I think still, for me personally, I don't think I think none of the Chinese city can catch up Silicon Valley right now in China, because I think Silicon Valley has the much mature ecosystems, or much healthy ecosystem compared to China. They are more open, like big company, they are very open to help startups or to acquire startups to help them grow. But back in China, is probably we have enough money, but we don't have good angel investors. We don't really, the government they want support, but they don't really get ideas how to support the tech startups. So still, a lot of things still missing in China.
Yeah. Okay. Back to the main theme of Keyplatform 2015, back to zero, a bold execution. So many companies had focused on what we can do well, but the market competition is being intensified more. So they have to concentrate on what you have to do in these days. So Michael Tram, what would be an innovative solution for enhancing companies' execution abilities, and have you ever experienced of it?
Mr. Choi, that's of course the golden question.
Yeah.
And I think from the experience also as a consultant who faces these challenges, not just in Korea, but wherever I work over the last 20 years, at the end of the day, it's all about managing the change. There are so many uncertainties today in the market. And they are today in the market, but we had uncertainties also 5 years ago, 10 and 15 years ago. It is that you have financial uncertainties. You have technology uncertainties. You have market uncertainties. You might have uncertainties with your client and customer base. So it happens that quickly companies can come into a situation where today nothing is normal anymore as it was yesterday. In those moments, the true leaders are those who are able to manage and cope with these uncertainties and manage the change process into the new normal. How to cope with the megatrends. One of the megatrends is certainly digitalization. We all talk about it, but who is really taking care of that? Who is really managing its company in a way that he is today? It's already a bit late, but who is today laying the foundation that tomorrow the company is still a big player. And this is just one mega trend. You see the uncertainties on how to manage the different shareholders, the unions, the employees, how to keep the employees, how to attract the employees, how to develop the employees. All these are issues where you need to have a leader or leaders in companies who are able to make that change happen. If this is possible, companies in Korea and companies in Germany and in China can really do well.
So, can you show us some examples of successful restructuring each companies with bold execution abilities? This is the main theme of the kiplplatform 2015. Right?
Yeah, certainly I can. And when we say successful, it is of course something we need to look not just on a company who is existing now 2 years or 3 years as a startup, because there was not yet a change. So let's look back to a company which we might all know, who had certainly difficulties 10, 15 years ago. And we all know Daimler, the famous Daimler Group, the automotive manufacturer. Daimler, who in the year 2000 was a conglomerate of different companies, not just building passenger cars. They had AEG, a household compliance company. They had aero engines. They were building small planes. They were building vessels. They were making a merger with Chrysler, and they had stakes in Mitsubishi. So there was this idea of a global company in the manufacturing base doing everything everywhere simultaneously. And that failed. That failed, and we all saw what happened with the leadership. The new leadership started to sell off all the things. They were throwing away the old thinking. They were saying the old idea is not good enough. The old thinking of being so broad with the engineers and everything and everywhere. And so the people grew up. But the new leadership said there must be a change. And there was a focus then fully on the luxury car segment in passenger cars. Well, they do trucks as well, but that's where the money is coming from. And today, they are certainly, no doubt, a very successful company again. There are other examples, non-Germans, of course, I need to talk about as well. Take the famous merger between, or takeover of Unilever and Best Foods. The only thing those two companies had in common were that they are operating in the same industry. All the rest was so different. But the leaders were able to say, how can we make 1 + 1 = 3? How can we take the best of both industries, best of both companies, and bring that together in a culture that is really getting strong and stronger? That was a bold move. That was a bold execution. Heigroup was supporting that merger and that change management process. And when you look today how successfully Unilever was integrating Best Food, that is certainly a great example for getting things done, bold execution.
Yeah. Let me ask Mr. Ru. So you mentioned that the Techno.com is introducing many Chinese startups to the world.
Yeah.
But the competition of IT software market is being intensified. So it becomes very difficult to survive in the midterm or in the long run. So what can be a strategy for surviving in internet business, and what is the plan of Techno.com for it?
Well, I think I totally agree. I think right now, I think everywhere, it's very probably in China, everybody talk about startups. Like all the resources saying, okay, we're going to support startups. We're going to support young generations to do the startups. But I think as a matter of fact, we see how I think the market is such, it's there is a very tough competition in the market, not just in China, also in the global market. So I think what we trying to do from a media, because we are the media, we are really focused on the startup, the kind of vertical market. So what we want to help the startup, and I think it's so basically we write about them and to help them to get more exposures in the market and try to get more users. But most important is we try to bring the resources, like for example the venture capitals, and even the government, because right now to start a startup, it's much easier than before. You can just just one person or 2%, 3% of the team, you can do startups. But the question is, because we've got so many startups, and how can they be recognized by the market? So we want to introduce more resources to look at them and to look after them. So we do all sorts of media coverage, the offline events. We have 5,000 people came to our events last year. We also travel around China, and also we even go to Hong Kong, Taiwan, or also some other Southeast Asia countries to do the demo days, to help the startups have more opportunities to face directly to the market. And I think for us, it's what we want to do next is actually right now we are building our own co-working space across China. We have 4 co-working space. Right now is setting up in Shanghai. We already have one in Beijing. So the reason we're doing that, because we really think we need a kind of physical space. We can not only provide the startups or the young founders to provide them very cheap, even free, like working space. Then we get everybody there. Then we help them. We do the events. We get venture capital there. We got the government there, and to help them, to have a chance to talk to the resources they need directly. And also because we see the trend, the more and more Chinese startups, they want to go to abroad. And also we see the trend. For example, we see I'm so surprised. We see that so many Korean startups, they want to go abroad, and they want to come to China because because they know the market is huge, and they know lots of. Also, they want to be kind of invested by Chinese venture capitals as well. So what we want, what we're trying to do is hopefully we can provide not an online space, and also the offline physical space. For example, if you're a Korean startup, they come to China, probably, they can spend 1 month or 2 months and just use our space to look into the market, to talk to the local partners, which I think would be very helpful for them.
Mr. Gang mainly talked about the Chinese startup. So, Mr. Tram, would you explain the trend of startup business, or maybe worldwide over North America and Europe, and which area has been growing, showing a remarkable growth?
Yeah, well, let's first, when we talk about startups, it is often automatically thought we're talking here only about startups in the internet age, digitalization. But startups is more than that. Startups is often when someone has a good idea, a founder for a business idea, for a business model, often coming from universities, young people who observe something, have an idea, and they simply go and do. They are innovators, they are true entrepreneurs, they believe in an idea with or without internet, and then they go on and they do. So this is certainly the one group of startups. The second one, those are then companies, large companies, conglomerates that we know already, who believe that within their existing environment and organization, they are not innovative enough. And they create little pockets of excellence, nuggets, where they put together young talents and let them develop an idea, and that's then called a startup, which later on becomes integrated. So these are the two fundamental different startup ideas, which then can be, of course, combined when a large company is acquiring one of these startups where a group, a young man, whatsoever, women, has achieved a great result as an entrepreneur. That's the one thing. And then, Mr. Choi, you asked what are the big, what are the growing, what are the famous startups that I observe. Well, that's a difficult thing because we all talk about these Amazons, Alibabas, eBays. They are all well known and since long, of course, not startups anymore. And we automatically, these names come into our mind because we are consumers. And these names, they are somehow related to retail. So as there is a mass market, those startups and similar names, smaller ones, often are well known. But this is only one part of the equation. There are fantastic companies which are not known to the normal customer, the normal buyer like you and me, but they are known for delivering expertise to, for example, to a supplier of automotive industry, or for the manufacturing industry, or a startup in the biotech, in the chemtech industry. Fantastic companies not known yet, or even if they exist already within 3 and 5 years, they are not known because they only service such a specific field of clients that people on the street, sorry to say, simply don't know the names. So to say then, who are the famous ones, where are the best growing ones, that's really difficult to say, and it depends a little bit from the perspective that you have.
So we have talked about the execution abilities and startup. So let's combine these two together. So what will be the key factors to success of this startup in terms of execution abilities, and what do Korean startups need to learn from them?
Yeah, Mr. Choi, you heard already in my in my last answer, a startup is for me an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur who believes in a certain idea. Someone who puts his full energy behind an idea and wants to get that done. He is listening to the market, he is listening to his customers and his clients, he understands them, and he is then reacting with a kind of speed, agility, flexibility, that quickly he can get the things done. Those are the ingredients of an entrepreneur. And at the end of the day, of course, an entrepreneur, a startup entrepreneur, wants also to make money. He is not just there to develop an idea, but when I talk to young startup founders, entrepreneurs, I always give them also the good advice, look that you quickly make money. And not that you just rely that sometimes in year 3, 4, or 5 you start making profit. The earlier you make the money, the better it is. And this is, again, an ingredient, a part of the gene code of an entrepreneur. For me, startup and entrepreneur goes very much hand in hand.
So, Mr. Kang Lo introduced a lot about the Chinese startups. So, do you feel any difference between the Chinese startup or the American startup?
Oh yeah, there are certainly
There are
differences.
certain differences.
There are certainly differences, and I'm convinced that Mr. Lu can much better elaborate on that. But being a bit neutral here, looking at the US and looking at Chinese startups, I think the strong growth that we observe today in Chinese startups is certainly also a result of the fact that in the US market we see a quite mature market already for many products. Whereas in China it is an opening economy, not just that it's much bigger, but it is more and more opening. More and more people get access to information, access to technology, access to financial means. Whereas in the US, things are already happening since quite some years, so it is mature. Therefore, there might be a kind of, not slow down, but losing a little bit the speed, comparing that to China. So I think we will observe for many years a strong growth in Chinese startups. I'm also convinced that more and more Chinese and US startups will find a way how to cooperate and to network with each other. Because if you want to become really big, there is no way out for international, for global networking and cooperation. And when we have the two big hubs, like the US startup scene in Silicon Valley and the startup scene in China, in whatever valley we won't see that, we will see that in the future, there will be cooperation coming. That is my prediction.
So do you have any opinion about Mike Tram's thought?
First of all, I think I totally agree with what Mike just said. Just one, probably I can add probably 1 or 2 points. Because we see, yeah, I think there is a huge difference between kind of American startups with the Chinese. I think what is quite interesting, I think now because, as you said, like US market or Western markets very well developed already, so you have a very mature ecosystem already. So, but if you look at China, because like everybody, I think, you know, it's not really very well developed. There are lots of things they have to be developed. So, but it's not that mature. But just because it's not mature, which means there's a lot of issues can be solved by the startups. So which give the startups many more opportunities. So they can think and they can find a solution, use the latest technologies. But I think that's why I think for Chinese startups, probably right now they have lots of work, lots of job they can think, because they can change all the traditional industry in China. You know, they can be kind of transformed by the startup. They have more opportunities there. But if you look at another angle, it's quite interesting. For me, I think the American startups or Silicon Valley startups, I think they start there, they want to, like the ultimate goal for startups, they want to change the world. Like Facebook, like Tesla, like StarX. They have such fascinating ideas. Even nobody believed that at the very beginning, but they still do that. And venture capital still support it, give them lots of capitals to support the startup entrepreneurs to do the things which might not be possible. So they are looking at like a long-term future. But for Chinese startups, I don't know if it's good or bad, but for most of the Chinese startups, they are looking at the short terms. The first goal or the final goal for them is IPO, making money. So that's why they see I think it's I think the difference here, because we see the Silicon Valley startup is really driven. If you look at the innovation, I think the Silicon Valley startups, the innovation is driven by the technologies. You see lots of companies, they have very good technologies, innovation. But for Chinese startups, they still have innovations, but their innovation is more about the business models. They don't, I think there's some startups they just copy ideas from Silicon Valley, but then after 1 or 2 years, then we see, if we compare the both companies, you see maybe Silicon Valley companies, they don't make money, but they are looking at the future. But the Chinese copycats, they already make money, even they got IPO already. So I think that's the difference.
I think that these days almost everybody know what does the word B.A.T. means. BAT. So Baidu and Alibaba, Tencent. What do you think is the key success factor of these 3 companies, and then what do you think they have to change for the sustainable growth in the future?
I think what makes them successful, I think the B.A.T, the 3 companies, I think they have really totally different stories. I think Baidu now is like a leading web search and players in China. I think probably if you ask Chinese, I think everybody agree actually the Baidu is kind of protected by the Chinese government because Google is not in China. Because the censorship, openness, the openness, Google disagree with the Chinese government, and because of that, I think Baidu take advantage with that. So Baidu is the leading. Like Tencent had another story because they started from the like QQ, the web messaging, and become very popular for Chinese. So they are very good at the entertainment, very good at the social networks. And Alibaba is also another story. Alibaba is all about e-commerce, the cross-border e-commerce. So e-commerce make them, everything. So I think they are very successful because they have different focus. And also, I think they had to thanks to the Chinese market because Chinese market is huge enough to support them from very beginning and until now. But to answer your second questions, I think at least from my perspective, I think for B.A.T, we really hope B.A.T can be more open. I think Michael just said the second type of the startup, like I would say, I call it open innovations. I think for these companies, they should be more open to welcome the startups, to work with the startups, either support them with resources or capitals, because probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I think almost every startups in China, they are afraid of B.A.T. Because what B.A.T is doing is, if they see the new opportunities, instead of invest these startups, they set up their own team to copy the ideas, then basically to kill the startups. So I think the situation will change, but I still think, I think it also, in Silicon Valley, there's a term we call acqui-hire, like acquire and hire. You acquire the team, small team, basically, you use them as your, you take them as a staff, but you still take ideas, and also to help the team or startup can still continue doing what they are doing. But there's no acqui-hire in China yet. So yeah, basically, I hope that B.A.T can be more open for the innovations.
So you mentioned we need to take note of the Chinese big IT companies such as Xiaomi and Meizu in the key platform. So what's the reason for it? And can you introduce how they can expand so fast?
Xiaomi?
Xiaomi, yeah.
Well, I think Xiaomi is a very interesting stories. I think they started, I think the mobile phone is their first product. So the idea they have, the basic philosophy behind Xiaomi is they think they can make the product, they can try to keep the same quality, the quality of the product, but they can sell it with a much cheaper price. And so they started with mobile phone, but if you look at the kind of product lines right now, they're selling phone, they're selling TV, they're even selling air conditioner. They invest in lots of companies. And also I think it's also copy some ideas. For example, the very famous company called GoPro is like a sport camera. And I think if you buy one, that costs you like $200 or even more than that. But if you buy something similar from Xiaomi have their own, is 200 RMB. So the same quality. So I think the ideas Xiaomi had is, cheap price, the more or less the same quality, then to sell to all the fans. And I think Xiaomi took the chance because I think when Xiaomi started 4 years ago, if you look at China, we don't really have like the real famous Chinese phone brand at that time. We have Samsung, we have HTC, but it's like Taiwan, and Samsung, from Korea. We don't really have. We have Huawei, we have ZTE, but they are not really good at mobile phone. They don't really focus on the consumer market. So I think Xiaomi see that kind of market and say, okay, there's no Chinese phone brand, and then Xiaomi came out saying, okay, I'll give you the best phone, or more or less the best phone, but with a very cheap price, which really attract, especially the Chinese young generations, because they cannot pay for like iPhones or Samsung phones. but they become fans of Xiaomi.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to the main theme of the kiplapform 2015, the execution abilities again. So, Mr. Tram, as you are the consultant of business strategy, do you think that the Korean companies are on the right track in terms of the execution abilities and the strategies?
Yeah, Mr. Choi, that is, of course, when you ask a consultant like me, a very general question, and I would be a bad advisor, a bad consultant if I would say yes or no. Typically you say it depends. It depends from the client, it depends from the situation. But joking aside, I mean, what can I say to leaders in a country who, when you look back 30, 40, 50 years ago, you were really in a weak, in a very poor situation, and look now out today into Korea, which is a modern company with powerful companies around in all kind of industries. Having that positive remark, on the other side, I believe it's fair to say from an outside-in perspective that I believe that some of the companies lost a little bit momentum. I think, I don't want to call it complacency, that would probably be too much. But it is, for me, also evident that the companies do not fully exploit their potential. When I'm speaking here, and I'm often in Korea, I'm often in Seoul, when I'm speaking here with the young talents, the ones who I meet, for example, here at this fabulous conference, then I have a little bit the impression that they are not enough empowered, that they are stuck somehow in hierarchical levels. They are stuck somehow in processes which are derived from manuals, where a company says, we always did it this way, so we'll continue to do it this way because it was successful in the past. Look where we come from and where we are today, 30 years ago and now. But one thing is for sure, what was good for the last development from the last 20 years up until now will not be good enough for the next 10 years and 20 years. So, Mr. Choi, no, I think the companies need to reflect their current strategies. They need to become more flexible in thinking, more agile in thinking. They need to prepare themselves for more change. They need to embrace the people. They need to embrace them. They need to talent development. They need to develop their talents more, and then change will be possible. And yes, if that happens, then they are on the right way.
Okay, time's almost up, so this is the last question. So the last question goes to Mr. Lu. So you have been helping Chinese and Korean startups cooperate each other and also helping their expansion to each country, right? Yeah. So do you have any suggestion for Korean startups and government? So that's a big question, but I think you may have some feeling.
No, I think, yeah, thanks for the question. I think it's, I take the question like two part. I think for me, I think actually if you look at the government part, my feeling, I might be wrong, but my feeling is the Korean government is doing much better job than Chinese government. For example, we visited quite a few new incubators based in Seoul. I think they are, because I talked to the founders of these incubators and also some venture capitals. At least the feeling we got is they got like the capital, a huge capital from the government. And also, for example, I met there's a bank called Dream Bank. It's a back foundation. It's funded by 20 Korean bank.
Yeah.
What I heard is like the 20 Korean bank, they are kind of forced, or they are volunteer to each bank give like $5 million and to set up bank, use like foundation to support Korean and startups. I think which sounds very, sounds impressive for me. And also, like they set up like a DCAP, like co-working space or incubators to help startups. But I think the most interesting, I think is really, what impressed me is, I know Chinese government or Korean government, they have money, they have all the resources. But what I see the Chinese government is, they want to do this on their own. Like they want, I say, okay, they want to talk to startups. I can give them money, give them working space. But the truth is, actually, they don't know. They don't know how. They don't speak startup language. They only have money, but I can give. They give the money, but that's it. They don't know anything else. They cannot do anything else. But here we see, well, again, I might be just partially see this, but what I see, the government gave the money to the right people. I mean, the people who run the incubator, I think they are very experienced entrepreneurs. They did the startup before. They took the money. They know how to use the money smartly to help the startup smartly, which I think, that's why I think, just based on that, I think the Korean government is doing, at least they're on the right track compared to the Chinese one.
Yeah.
Then the second part is for Korean market, Korean startups, to go to China or to go to global. I would say, first of all, I think I'm also impressed by how aggressive the Korean startups, they want the global market. Because either, we do conference in China. Like every time we see over 10 Korean startups, they flew to China to participate at our events. We go to States, we go to some European conference. The Korean startups is all over the place. And also I think I think their expense paid by the government, which is good. That's what I hear. I think the first thing is because we're back to the key platform is all about execution. I think now they are very good. They are aggressive enough. They want the global market. But secondly, is I think they should know how to localize their product. I think the Korean startups, I think they have very good design and philosophies. They are very good at design, and also they have some advanced technologies. But I think the issues we see is, some startups, they have the technologies, but I don't know why it's difficult for them to find the business model around technologies. They can give you a beautiful product, but after you try that once, then you start thinking, okay, what can I do with this? It's maybe they cannot make money, but it's good technology. So, but as I said, the Chinese startups, actually, they don't have technologies. But from first day, they are thinking, where's the business model? I think that's the Korean startup they should learn.
I think what you said today in this interview is of great help for Korean viewers and also me to understand the term of the execution abilities and the Chinese startup. And you gave us some advice. It's going to be very useful for Korean startup too. Okay. Thank you for your time despite your busy schedule. And I hope you enjoy this trip to Korea. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely do. Thank you.
Thank you.